style of going at it. But
Good afternoon, councillors, members of the staff and those joining us on the live stream. Welcome to the final Regulatory and Wellbeing Committee meeting for this triennium. No apologies. We have one person who will be joining us on Microsoft Teams later on, but that's Lisa Thorne, planning consultant, who will be talking about the district plan. So, any declarations of interest? None. Let's move on to the minutes of the Community Wellbeing and Regulatory Committee from August 12, if somebody would like to move. Trish and Barry. Any matters arising? If not, I'll put that all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Minutes of the Creative Communities Fund meeting from August 21. Trish, I'll second. Matters arising or questions? Alex? Okay, thanks. Put that all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Carried. We've got the August meetings from the District Licensing Committee, which I'm happy to move.
Second pro forma.
Thank you. Any questions? Nope. Put that all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Have we got Lisa standing by?
meeting here.
Good afternoon, Lisa. Welcome along to the meeting. There, Lisa. Nope. Are we muted? There we go. Hey, Lisa. Good afternoon, Lisa. Welcome along to the meeting. Oh, there's a nice delay.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thanks.
Apologies
Good afternoon
for
to
that.
you and your wallpaper. Welcome along to this meeting, and give you the chance to speak to the paper around the code of practice for the plan change and our revised process and timeframes.
Thank you, Kia ora committee. It's a relatively brief report this month, and that's really to reflect the fact that you've had a more comprehensive report last month in terms of progress on the plan change. Since then, there's been quite a bit that's been happening. At the last committee meeting, you approved the Chief Executive to apply for a plan stop application to continue progressing the plan change. That application has been prepared and is currently with Michael Day for his review and approval. We have also met with the Ministry for the Environment to understand a bit more about the plan stop process and what the Minister is likely to expect in that application. So the application has been prepared on that basis. Since the last committee meeting, we've also had another reference group meeting on progress towards plan change 2. So I think that the report that you've got in front of you is only 2 pages, so it's relatively brief and speaks to itself. But what we had identified in the issues section of the report is, should an exemption be approved, the plan change would be likely to progress to notification in early 2026. From the workshop that Jonathan Shaw and I had with the reference group on the 29th of August, we've really at the point where we've got a lot of the requirements for the plan change either in place or pretty close to being in place over the next couple of weeks. If that's the case, with the Minister essentially approving a plan stop exemption relatively quickly, and that is an unknown, but if that does occur, then there is potential to take the plan change back through to Council for approval to notify, potentially even before Christmas, and possibly at the 1st November meeting, which I think might be November the 14th.
I think so,
So
yes.
there's the potential to move a bit more at pace if that approval comes through fast. I have been advised by MFE though that no applications through Plan Stop have been approved yet. They've only received 2 so far. So essentially, Invercargill City Council can be at the start of the list, and they'll be reviewing the draft that Michael sends through before it goes to the Minister. So what is presented to the Minister is nice and complete and what he expects to see.
Thanks, Lisa. So depending on when we get approval, we have a plan and a B plan for timelines.
That's it. And a C plan, November, December or February.
Any questions from the committee? Nope. Excellent result. Leslie?
Happy to move the recommendation, Mr Chair.
That the report is received and seconded. Rea? I'll put that then. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks very much for your time, Lisa. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, ka kite.
Along similar lines, an update on Te Puawai. Jonathan. In summary, not much we can say, but there's a process underway.
Essentially, yes.
Which is what the paper says. But application is lodged as a matter of historical reference for council. Previous council approved a plan change that, based on the plans that were submitted at that time, would have made it very easy to for the development to be approved under delegated authority, actually. But there's an application that's come in and we're processing it. That's about all we can say.
Excuse me.
Question, Tom.
The 35 allotments, what total area would that be?
I'm afraid I can't answer that. I can certainly find the information, pass it to you later on.
But are the allotments in the sense of quarter acre, or are they very small, or are they larger allotments?
Smaller than quarter of an acre, but I will verify with that with the team and come back to you.
More than?
They were all small, Tom, standard urban size lots in that we looked at in the plan change. Ringy.
Oh, thanks, Chair. My question is regarding stormwater. Now, looking at the whole complex, I see there was an integrated stormwater plan, and that makes sense. So by just doing one part, can that operate stormwater-wise without the rest of it? Because from what I see, this is a higher level, and I was just wondering that the stormwater plan, is that still able to be delivered?
The only comment I can make is that we're currently working with the application in regards to stormwater requirements and ensuring that it is appropriate.
Okay, so that is a consideration.
It's something that would form part of the Section 42 report that goes with the application. Evelyn.
Chair, look, it will come as no surprise to anybody that that we from the Rūnaka are not happy with the lack of progress and the lack of communication and development on this particular block of land, given that it is our direct neighbour, and that things like the stormwater, the planting of a small reserve of native bush, all the things that were talked about by the applicant when the plan change was requested, are not happening, and that some of those could have been underway.
So Evelyn,
Yes.
Council isn't aware of the detail in the application at this point.
I don't know what the detail is either, but what I'm really expressing is that the plan change had certain market
set
promises
conditions
that we
and-
are not seeing.
Well, we don't know because we, the committee, haven't seen it yet. It would be fair to say that if the plan change as it was put through, if an application met that, it would be a very simple process. If somebody wishes to vary on what was originally suggested and being accounted for, that creates another process that we have to look at. And everything tested under the existing RMA and district plan. and also the degree of variation from what the plan change allowed.
I think that probably is the concern that we have, is that the intensification of use, none of that has come back to us. It's things that we hear. At what point does council and the public who saw the promises, at what time do they get to experience what actually is going to happen? And I do realise that it's the applicant that drives it, but it seems like we are spectators in this particular thing.
So with your forgiveness, let me see if I can direct your question at Jonathan in a certain way. At what point do interested neighbouring parties become aware of an application?
At the point in time that a decision is made on affected parties, that decision's yet to be made.
But before any hearing process?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Clark.
Through you, Chair. Just a bit of a disappointment that we only have a consent 35 sections and some roading in the northeast corner, because one of the things that comes up from other developers in the city is they are nervous about how many sections will go there, because if the original plan or the concept that Evelyn alluded to was 700 sections, then that takes away a lot of the supply when the demand's not high. I just, for you, Jonathan, I just wondered, like, is there any benefit for them getting a consent for 35 instead of 700? Does it change things?
I think I would answer that by saying...
Well, rephrase it. If they do it in 40 section lots, for argument's sake, and they end up doing, I don't know, 18 consents over time, each consent comes with its own cost, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And each consent, whilst measured on its own merit, will also be assessed against ones that have gone previous, so that we don't end up with an additional plan change by stealth, as we've seen in other parts of town. So if the overall development were lodged in bite-sized chunks but still met what was originally being proposed, that's fine. As soon as the threshold of the development and the intensification changes, that's when it's not making things insurmountable. It's just that there's more assessment that has to be done.
Just one final question through you, Chair, that you might know the answer to anyway, which is the reference in the document to a allocation to vest some land for reserve purpose.
Yes.
Do we have a reserve swap in place? Did I hear that when the development was proposed that we were swapping land, they were putting land in and somehow getting some land that we had up on the border of that whole development?
I can't recall off the top of my head, to be fair, Mayor Clark. Jonathan, do you know?
So I would refer that one to my colleague, Mr. Capel, but I believe not at this stage.
Not that we're aware of. Harry.
Yeah, I'm just interested, who named this development project?
The original applicant. Any further questions? The recommendation is that the update report is received. I'll move. Seconded Trish. I'll put that then. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Pupeka Tiaki Tauka, Michael, or Rex. Who's take Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now this one is my report. So we have prepared a draft statement of expectations for this committee to endorse, setting out what this council is expecting of the trust for the coming financial years, so that they can then, of course, complete their statement of intent and send that back to council for ultimate comment upon This is standard practice, but is in a slightly unusual manner in that it is covering a few years, just as we've been working through with the Trust on the various changes that have taken place for them over the last 1 or 2 calendar years. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So we're covering off not only the current year, but next year and 27? Or the
Financial
first
year.
half of 27?
Yes.
Thank you. Ring.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I've touched base with Michael on this, but I believe it's important for the Council to be aware. As of December last year, the Southern Regional Collections Trust wasn't a CCO, and it's become a CCO sometime during this year. Now, according to Section 56 of the Local Government Act, before you become a CCO, you must publicly consult. And I'm aware that we haven't consulted in making this change. So with the OAG, are we under any obligations to hold or desist, Michael, at all, or is it just purely something technical?
So we are currently working with the Audit Office on this and the implications of the same, but this is a technical thing that even, quite frankly, if it wasn't a CCO, having a statement of expectations from this council to them of what we would expect is a very good thing to have.
Right, so with the non-compliance of Section 56, is there any implications from that?
There is generally no implication other than a statutory breach, but as I said, we are working with the Audit Office on this, and we will follow their direction if they require us to consult, that we will do.
Okay, thank you.
So, question of clarification then, Michael. The trust was originally a CCO and its predecessor was classified as a CCO?
Correct.
Okay. Mayor Clark.
Stole my thunder on that last question. It was my understanding when we set up this trust, it was meant to be a CCO, and then development took it away from that, and now it's been brought back. I just wanted some clarification around the wider picture around this trust. So I'm unclear about, as we develop the final parts of the museum and what's likely to be inside, we've got this trust that has some input through the collections, but just through my ignorance, where does the iwi liaison group fit into this whole scenario? And do you know who makes up that group?
So the iwi liaison committee is a committee that is set up as a subset underneath the trust. So the iwi liaisons committee terms of reference is a schedule in the trust deed for this trust. So that is made up by people appointed by the Rūnaka, essentially at their discretion, and the iwi liaison committee is then able to also co-opt people it considers has value or experience that can assist them. It is fair to say that we are working with the iwi liaison committee on our relationships. It is fair to say that there have been some issues, and the trust is also mindful of that and working quite closely to ensure that there is alignment and that there is a clear vision for what will be happening at Te Unua.
Just as a secondary question to that, Michael, it was my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that previously the iwi liaison committee had a different role. It was more engaged with SMAG itself, which was the museum. Had more input into the actual running of the place.
Same process under SMAG.
Okay. Thank you.
Grant.
Thanks, Chair. Just also appreciate the sharing of the trust deed as well. Michael, I think all councillors have had that, and just want to talk or ask a question around the link between this statement of intent and the trust deed. And having reviewed the trust deed, I've got some questions and probably a concern around the ability of the trustees to actually enact what this talks about, particularly in terms of making the collection available for Tainui and for the public and for the purpose which it's there for, right? It's for our community, which it's their asset, and this is the whole community, the Runangas as well as the wider community. So I'm just looking for sort of what you're feeling, or maybe it's for Rex, around how confident are we around we will be able to get to a position where the trust, through the trustee, can actually give effect to what we're expecting in this statement of intent?
Absolutely. So I can say firstly, the trust deed is in a state of continuous review with the trustees because it was rewritten for this trust. So it is therefore appropriate that it continues to be reviewed by the trust to make sure that it meets their expectations as well as this council's. Secondly, there are a number of things that fall underneath the trust deed, and that includes a relationship with the council, because it is through the council staff, Rex's team, that the trust is able to act. So the statement of expectation sets out what we expect of the trustees. How they deliver that is in conjunction with the various teams at council through the museum and the collections teams. Rex might have something else he wants to add to that.
Thank you, through you, Chair. In terms of your question, Councillor Dermody, in terms of level of confidence, I'd have to say that this will be determined through process and personalities. And I am comfortable and confident if we follow the process, both whether it be legislative as a council-controlled organisation or as an entity that is a stakeholder organisation of our council and therefore our community, by way of addressing some learnings from the past, I'm confident that the personalities to take this forward will work effectively and collaboratively together. The critical thing that I see is that we have a process to follow, and that is, and you'll note in our current legislation, Section 64B of the Local Government Act, around statement of expectation, says that we may prepare a statement of expectation. We have chosen to prepare a statement of expectation because it supports, I think, the formalisation that we require, the documentation that we require to progress this. So from a council perspective, I think it's good practice, and it's very clear and public as in terms of what our expectation as per that statement is in terms of supporting the trust going forward. Then the trust will bring back to us, based on those expectations, their statement of intent, which we have, and they have asked us already if we have support for them to be able to put that together so that it talks to these expectations. I also wish to remind this committee that in October last year, the council resolved and made a decision to undertake or to ask me to initiate a relationship reset and rebuild process with and for and on behalf of this trust. I'm pleased to say that we had a final session on Thursday with trustees from the trust and 3 stakeholder groups that were named to be part of that relationship reset and rebuild process. So that's been operating concurrently with the 3 remaining trustees that we have. Where I again get to answer your question around confidence in progressing this, it's now sitting with Michael and I, and I'm supporting Michael in now undertaking the recruitment process and appointment process for the new trustees. With the trustees down to 3, we have been asked by the trust to support them in undertaking and developing that recruitment process. That will be a publicly notified process, and that will be of interest not only to the trust but obviously to this council. And the fact that the appointments panel for the trust, as per its trust deed, stipulates who is on that appointment panel, again should provide us with confidence that we have the people in place through our chief executive and an iwi representative to be able to appoint the appropriate appointees following a publicly notified process. So long answer, but short in the sense that process and personalities will be are the crux of making this work.
Thank you.
Evelyn.
Mr. Chair, I am extremely unhappy about this. I think we have gone from the SMAG Trust Board, which had its limitations, to a skills-based board where we're now back to this is an expectation that Te Unua will be the priority, whereas the collection is the southern communities. There are a lot more facilities than just Te Unua that are entitled to access tauka from these collections, but the focus is all about this council. That is an extreme disappointment to me, because where is the wider southern community in all of this? Where is the, going back to, as someone who was around at the beginning of this, before the beginning of this, I feel like we have gone backwards. I feel like there is perhaps a perception that because Te Unua, we've invested so much in that they are the priority, but where is Rakiura, where is Te Hikoi, where is East and Southland, where are all the other museums that are entitled to access our collections in this conversation, because this is outlining what this council expects of this trust. It does not provide for what the wider southern community expects of this trust and access to it. And how is that going to be addressed? Because a lot of the objects that we're talking about that might be a priority are not actually the property of the trust. They are in the care of the trust, but they're not the property of the trust. So I don't think we've moved forward. I think we've actually gone backwards, but that's my personal opinion. In terms of iwi liaison, when we operated as a skills-based trust, a budget was put forward which included a budget for iwi liaison committee. It included the beginnings of a discussion about where they fit in things, but that was not implemented by council. So I don't know where we go from here. It's fine to have a statement of expectations, but where is that in terms of the wider southern community whose collections are also part of this, and how do they get to have input and interact with taonga that belong to them? And that includes both artworks and traditional taonga Māori, historical objects, all those sorts of things. How does that get met in this process? Because none of those other councils now have input into this. This is just ICC telling Te Kupeka what their expectations are.
So, two things before I go to Rex. Firstly, you are a member of the iwi liaison committee?
No, I'm an advisor.
That's good enough. Should it be declared as an interest?
Aroha mai.
Our letter of expectation can only express what this council expects to receive, and I don't think that's any different to Great South, for example. We don't tell Great South what to do for the wider Southland district. We don't tell Great South what to do for Gore district, and I don't think that expectations of the work of TKTT beyond what we require are able to be expressed in that letter. Rex?
And Michael, you might be able to help me here if my memory is shot, but as I recall, the two neighbouring authorities, Southern District Council and Gore District Council, were both invited to have their chief executives as representatives on the appointments panel as per the trust deed when the trust deed was changed, and they both chose to not take up that opportunity. So the opportunity was provided by the trust in inviting them to be included in clause whatever it is in the trust deed to be on the appointments panel, and they chose not to.
That's correct.
In terms of can I, through you, Mr. Chair, just also pass comment on a couple of points made by Reverend Cook. She referenced, I think it was a skills-based board. As far as I'm aware, the approach is no different. the board appointments and appointees will be based on the same approach that the original board was made. So I'm assuming it will be a skills-based board on as per that appointments process. So there again is no change to that. And the other point I would like to just perhaps provide some clarity to is I don't know where there is anywhere written or documented or understood that no one else can access this collection via the trust. So, you know, the museum director or the manager of Te Hikoi has nothing to stop them approaching the trust and asking them to access items that are held in the custodianship or guardianship of the trust. Just like the Rakiura Museum does, just like the Wyndham Museum, just like the Eastern Southland or Hokiru Moonshine. All of those still have access and availability by approaching the trust as the guardians of this regional collection.
Chair, through you, I would just simply also add the trustees are themselves very mindful of their obligations to the wider Southland region, and while I obviously cannot speak for them, I know that that is part of their thinking and certainly part of their conversations with us when we are in meetings with them. So just wish to provide that reassurance.
Thank you. Pania.
I just wanted to actually share that the Te Kupia Te Aki Tonga and the iwi liaison committee are actually going to be catching up. So there is conversations happening as well. So just want to...
Yeah. Grant.
Just want to comment on Evelyn's point. I mean, it is Te Anua, the Museum of Southland, so I think all those people that have collection in TKTK would expect that their tonga would be displayed in our new museum. I think it's a great way to represent our region. And secondly, and it's what Michael and both Rex talked to, you know, the key role of the trustees, and that's why I have concern around the current trust deed, is because I think those trustees have got a primary role to ensure that our community gets to see and share and value this important asset for our community. And so they will make every effort to make it available not only at Te Anua but in other regions, sites around our region. So it's important that we get the trust deed right and get those trustee appointments right so that that does happen, because we don't want this thing locked up somewhere and through bureaucratic nonsense or political agendas, you know, it gets inhibited. So I think we're on the right track and we need to continue to push down this thing so our community gets to see and enjoy and value this really important piece of tonga.
I don't disagree, but I do feel that their primary number one responsibility is protection of the collection.
Well, yeah, true, yeah, fair point, yeah.
Tom.
I mean, I don't know if this paper was intended to reassure us. It's actually done the exact opposite to me, just listening to the discussion. I understood that the collection was multiple the size, 10 times the size of what could ever be displayed in museums. So I'm not quite sure why there is a perception of some conflict between somebody want a piece and somebody else want a piece. I mean, I don't know if there's examples of that, but the collection is large enough, I would have thought that everybody could share it without having an issue. And I see Rex nodding.
It's always been that the percentage of the collection that's on display is very small compared to the size of the collection.
Yeah. So the wording that concerned me was when Reverend Cook said it's concerning that the Museum of Southland should be considered a priority. If the collection is a multiple of the size it could be displayed anywhere, then I think what we need to know is if there is actually any conflict anywhere. So I'd be extremely surprised if there was, but I'd like to know if there was.
So the paper is around our letter of expectation, and our letter of expectation says that our priority is Te Anua. The priority of TKTT will be the preservation of the collection first and foremost, and then everything else under that.
Sure about that.
I'd help that. Any other questions or comments? If not, there are 3 recommendations if someone would like to move. Leslie, seconded. Tom, thank you. I'll put that then. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Callum, no sign of Ella yet? Okay. Still waiting on the representative from the Youth Council to arrive. So what I'm going to do is adjourn this part of the meeting and reopen and close off the in-committee part of the agenda, and then come back, reopen the open part and take the Youth Council report with your forbearance. So this part is adjourned. So no, actually before that, Grant, if you want to move that we go into PX to discuss the matters as outlined. Thanks, Leslie. Put that, and I'll adjourn the open part of the meeting. Thanks to those that have joined us on the live stream. You can rejoin us once again when we reopen to take the Youth Wonderful. I'll reconvene the meeting of the Community Wellbeing and Regulatory Committee, and we've got the Youth Council's September report. Ella Rowan from the Youth Council has come along, and along with her is Callum Finlater, who works with the Youth Council. Thanks for taking the time to come along and join us. Time's yours first of all, and then councillors might have a few questions for you afterwards.
Okay, so this is our annual report, so I'll just cover a couple of things in more detail.
Cool.
So firstly, we had our Enviro schools. We had Josh come and speak to us, and we proposed a collaboration with Enviro schools, maybe a tree planting, but nothing quite set in concrete just yet. Also, our social media committee has been getting a lot of attention recently with our best results in any of our social media posts before.
As Ella was saying, Youth Council is particularly proud to acknowledge the high level of public engagement its social media has garnered. It has a new co-coordinator, that's me, and I look forward to working with Council as well as the city's youth to improve outcomes within the city. Youth Council has completed its mission statement and identified particular areas of interest which it feels it and Council could best collaborate and consult on. Youth Council will be presenting a submission on the curbside waste consultation to the newly inaugurated Council later in the year. The pre-election report has been workshopped in partnership with Rhiannon Suter, Strategy, Policy and Engagement Manager, to put it in a more accessible format for young people. Youth Council was honoured to be able to work with the communications team under Lisa Knight to have questions put to the mayoral candidates at the great debate hosted by Duncan Garner. TikTok videos around election issues are being produced also, and youth councillors will be present at the elections pop-up stall over the school holidays to boost youth participation. At the prompting of the Reverend Cook, Youth Council has decided to trial a 2-year term with the option of a 1-year term if applicants so wish. If there are resignations during the term, applicants will of course be accepted for vacancies to be filled. The recruitment process for next year has already begun, with a committee being formed. Applications opened on the 1st of September and close on the 24th of October. We have already had some very impressive applicants, so hopefully that continues. Youth Council humbly tenders its report for your consideration.
Thanks, Ella and Callum, and thanks for the feedback on the terms. I guess one of the things for perspective that the committee might not be aware of is if you think our 3-year term comes around quickly, think about a term that starts essentially in February and is done by October, November, and so for some people on Youth Council, it's their first engagement with local government. For others, you've got people who've continued on for 3 or 4 years, and the chance for people to secure an ongoing tenure that goes across those 2 years, I think, is really useful. So there'll be part of the Youth Council that follows through that will take on, I guess, a mentoring role and help the others come up to speed quicker. And so that's a really positive move in my opinion, and great feedback, so thanks for that suggestion, Evelyn. Questions from councillors? Trish.
Thank you for your report and for the work you're doing. It's great. It's really, I love the poster. I thought that was quite attractive. So no wonder you've got some people. Will you be present at the Rangatahi Festival in Bluff? Will you have a presence there?
I don't believe that we've discussed that as a youth council yet, but I'm not sure.
Because it perhaps could be a place where you could be visible.
Don't lead them, Trish. Let them make up their own mind, but a good suggestion for them to consider. Steve.
Thanks, yeah. Look, it could be a wee bit of a follow-on from Councillor Boyle, but hey, look, I love your strategy around how to better communicate some of the issues facing the city and through the Youth Council and kind of lead that lead that communication. Have you got any strategies, I guess, or how are you drawing that feedback back so that it's a two-way conversation with the rangatahi in our city to make sure that we're not just speaking to them, but also getting some rich feedback back, whether it's through events or pop-ups or social media, for example?
Excuse me.
We do take account of what young people say to us, but there's no specific forum for that, although if you would advise it, we'll take that on board, Councillor Broad.
Yeah, just because Youth Council brings such an amazing, it's such an amazing source of feedback to us. I wondered how the Youth Council could better bring the conversations of a wider rangatahi base to us, I guess. Thank you.
It's a big picture thing. I guess be interesting for Youth Council to contemplate what opportunities there are to do that. I think from memory, Ella, this is your second year on Youth Council? Yeah. Is it what you thought it would be?
There's a lot more, I didn't realise how big Youth Council was. I didn't really understand what it was when I signed up, but seeing the behind the scenes of how council works is really cool.
So you've enjoyed it in the end?
Yeah.
Cool. Leslie.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Ella and probably Callum as well, very interested in your inverted pyramid. So at the top of it is public transport and smoke-free CBD. Are there any particular topics within those at the moment that you want to draw to our attention? Particularly thinking of public transport, but if it's
so I wasn't actually here for the mission statement, but I believe in prior discussion about it, public transport was a lot about buses, as it's a popular commute for the youth councillors. So I think a focus on upgrading the bus shelters.
Evelyn, sorry I missed you.
No, that's all right. Thank you very much, and thank you for the reference to the suggestion that I made. I'm honoured that as the second oldest person at this table, I had so much influence. I'm also interested in the inverted pyramid, and my particular interest is the smoke-free CBD, just because I feel like it's a decision that was made. It has no enforcement teeth, so to speak, but the social influence, and how does the Youth Council see, is that working? Is there things that we could be doing differently? I know that about 18 months ago, the feedback about the inconsistency with the availability of tobacco products within the CBD for sale seems in contravention of the idea of a smoke-free CBD. But has that progressed over the last year where, because it's put at the top of the inverted pyramid, obviously there's some strong feelings about it. What does Youth Council see should be done, needs to be done, could be done?
I can't speak on that to my personal knowledge, but I can certainly go back to Youth Council and ask for a more specified response to that.
And by way of a bit of background, it was a deliberate action from Council to introduce the smoke-free and vape-free policy, which was actually as a consequence of a request from Youth Council at the time, rather than a bylaw, recognising that a policy isn't enforceable, but gives members of the public permission to go up to people and go, hey, it's a smoke-free area, do you mind? Because we had that on sports fields previously. If it was a bylaw, then we've got to go around and enforce it, and that's challenging. I guess the contradiction is that we have this policy and you can still buy tobacco and vapes within the CBD. We also have an alcohol-free CBD, and yet there are licensed premises within it that are able to operate. But I wanted to give that history, to bring it back to the fact that it was actually Youth Council that's responsible for us having that. So I guess the question to ask Youth Council is why it sits at the top, and what is it you want to see, and so I can raise that up as a bring up at the meeting tomorrow. Any other questions? If not, thanks so much for coming along, Ella. Really appreciate it. Trust you've enjoyed your second year. You're going to come back for more?
Yeah, hopefully.
Good on you.
Good job, Ella.
Thanks, Ella. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Callum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, that brings us to the end of the committee meeting, but I would like to take this opportunity to say... thank you.
And I'll second.
Moved and seconded, the reports received. Leslie and Grant, put that all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. My excitement and wanting to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to the staff who've worked with the assortment of issues that come under our umbrella. We really value it. It's a fine balance, particularly with regulatory stuff, understanding what our role is, and also realising that when recommendations come through from staff, that isn't necessarily the direction that council tracks afterwards, but I'm confident that staff at all times have given us the best information that they have to try and enable us to make those decisions. So thank you sincerely for that. Councillors, the meeting is closed.